All praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere camp. And this is your brother Bawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Kodash. All praises and glory is due, especially in these times. And this is going to be a part 2 of basically the response to the Apostle Gabar's video, and this one right here, 7 enigmas, dark sayings of the Holy Scriptures. Okay, and in the video, he said that if you brothers can or are able to make videos going into this, you can go ahead and do that, right? So this is just and let me get that precept real quick. And I've already done this before in the first video, but I'll just do it again, right? Just to rehash the matter, right? This is basically as it is written that iron sharpeneth iron, right? Let me get that precept. And I've forgotten where in the scriptures that it's actually, so I'm just type it in here. So yeah, Proverbs 27 verse 17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend, right? So that's why the Apostle Gabar, the apostles and the other apostles always do videos like this, right? Now to keep brothers sharp in this truth and keep brothers keep the knowledge flowing, basically, right? So I've already done the first one, and I'm probably going to upload it sometime soon, right? So the second one is Job 9 verse 24, and does the Heavenly Father really create evil, right? Isaiah 45 verse 7, right? So those are the two I'm going to focus on right now, because I don't really have much time to just go into everything. I'm going to be taking it bit by bit. Okay, so before I go into that, right, I wanted to just read this verse. So the Apostle Gabar to put 2 comments in his video, right, when he basically defined what both an enigma and a dark saying is, right? Because when it comes to the scriptures, that is something that you see messes up a lot of you wacky plantation Christians, and a lot of you jakes and you heathen that aren't in this truth. You believe that the scriptures are supposed to be for everybody, when in reality they are not. Okay, these scriptures are only for the elect of the nation of Israel, right? Realistically, and if you don't even believe in the Most High Yahweh, you shouldn't even be reading the scriptures, because there is nothing for you there. Okay, and because you're just going to sow confusion with your lack of understanding of the scriptures. So now this is the comment right here. Question: what is an enigma? An enigma is something or someone that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to understand or explain. It can also be used to describe a riddle or a difficult problem. The word enigma is derived from the Greek word ainisomai, which means to speak in riddles, right? That's exactly how the scriptures are written. Let's get that precept. Let's start in the book of Proverbs, right? 1 verse 2. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, and to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings, right? Because most of the scriptures is written in code. It's all metaphorical, deep dark sayings that you will only be able to understand if the Spirit is dealing with you. Okay, you can only get the context of the scriptures and understand what is being written in the scriptures if the Spirit is dealing with you, right? And that's why, as it is written, that the Spirit bears witness with our spirit that we are children of the Most High, and that's because the Holy Spirit, dealing with us through the Spirit and power of Yahweh in the Spirit. Okay, so yeah, and then let me get this next one. What is a dark saying? So a dark saying in the context of the Bible refers to a statement, utterance that is enigmatic, puzzling, or requires careful interpretation to understand its full meaning. These sayings are often found in wisdom literature and prophetic writings, where the message isn't immediately apparent and invites deeper contemplations, right? And like I said, if the Spirit is not dealing with you, you can't get these deep dark sayings, you can't get these enigmas that are in the scriptures, right? That's why you see Jake be messed up whenever we talk about Babylon the Great. Oh, America is not called Babylon the Great. Oh, Esau, not the so-called white man. Oh, Job 9 verse 20, and that's basically what is leading, going into Job 9 verse 24 as well, right? Who is the wicked and basically who is in power, right? The reincarnation, the virgin birth, and all these different things, right? These are deep, dark sayings that are in the scriptures that if the spirit is not dealing with you, ultimately you will not be able to understand, okay? So, yeah, let's go into the second question now. Job 9 verse 24, right? And brothers always go into this precept right here because it is very, very relevant to what's going on the earth right now, man. Job 9 verse 24, and it reads, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. God. So that is something that is already generally agreed upon, right? That the wicked is in rulership. And let me see if I can get no, whether with ChatGPT, but basically that's something that is generally agreed upon, that hey, we are living in a wicked world, right? A fallen world, like the Christians say, that has fallen away from the grace of course they'll say Most High, God and all that, right? And which of course they are right, okay. But when it now comes down to the greater details, the reason, right? The reason basically just that the reason why the world is in the state that it is in right now, right? The Christians have no answer for that. You ask them, well, if the Most High is all, well, the Most High is the one true God and is a benevolent God and all that, then why is it that the world is in the state that it is in? And of course the Christians will be unable to answer that, and the reason why the world is currently in the state that it is in is because Job 9 verse 24, it is given into the hand of the wicked, and who, and then that begs the question, okay then, who puts the world in the hands of the wicked? So let's go to the book of Daniel, alright? That is the book of Daniel, I believe that's the 4th chapter, the 17th verse. So Daniel 4 verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High Yahweh Shai ruleth in the kingdom of men, right? So the true ruler, right? That's why we call our Lord Yahweh Shai the King of Kings and the Lords of Lords, and that's of course because he has been given the rulership of the world by the Most High Yahweh, and you can read about that in the book of Revelations, the 5th chapter. Okay, like I said, not much time, so I'm just going to try and go through this and focus on the main topic at hand rather than going into different other things. Okay, so Daniel 4 verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High Yahweh Shai ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men, right? And the basest of men also is also going into the wicked, okay, which is exactly what we are speaking about when we go into the book of Job 9 verse 24, because really the book of Job 9 verse 24 only has one question: who are the wicked? Okay? After all, that's the most important question in this in the book of Job 9 verse 24, because the wicked are written there, described as they have been given rulership over the earth and also cover the faces of the judges thereof. And that's basically the second question as well, right? Because I said that there was one question, but really there are two questions: who are the wicked and how they cover the faces of the judges, and then ultimately who are the judges, right? So I'm trying to get basis right in the blue letter, and it's not going because it's Nigerian data, and it's funny because I just recently learned that basically a lot of the data streams going in and out of Africa is being controlled by some underground sea cables in like Djibouti, which is all the way, I think, like an island all the way in East Africa, and that shows you that anyway, sure, that's beside the point. And yeah, when this network is just taking the sweet time, it's not loading quick. I think I should still have some mobile data, so let me use that instead. let's get that. I guess I'm out of mobile data. So let's try that again. One more time. Okay. So I want to go and get the letter for the word basis, right? Basis, and the word there is sapal. No, that's not sa. That's sha. Shapal. Shapal. Okay. Lowliest of station, right? So let's get this. The root word shapal. To bring or bring low, to humble. To bring low, humble, right? And the wicked and the basest of men are the same people, okay? Rather the same family or group, okay? And how do we know who the wicked is? So let's go to the book of Malachi, right? So let's go to the book of Malachi. So this is the book of Malachi 1 verse 1. The burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith Yahweh? Yet I loved Jacob. And this is where all your plantation Christian pastors and theologians would usually stop reading Malachi, the first chapter, right? Or at least, jump down and start reading another part of Malachi, the first chapter, because they'll stop here and say, oh, well, Jacob was loved. That shows you that, the Most High loves his people because we are loved through Jacob, and starts bringing out all these mental gymnastics to explain why modern day, this precept right here applies to modern Christians. But of course, they'll skip over the next part, Malachi 1 verse 3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Right, so basically Esau's rulership, Esau's kingdom, right? But that's the point. Basically the point we're trying to get here is that the Most High hates Esau. Yeah. Malachi 1 verse 3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. And the heritage and the mountain and heritage he's talking about here is Mount Seir, okay? Which of course, if you go to the location of Mount Seir, I believe that's Petra. You'll find that there is nobody inhabiting there anymore, and it's not inhabited, right? So the Edomites, right, which are your so-called red people, all right, because they're not white, they are red, their blood shows forth through their sin. Their original land, their original habitation is Mount Sinai, not Europe, okay, not the Americas, not Australia or wherever else you find them today, but their original land is Mount Seir. I think I accidentally said Mount Sinai. Okay, I didn't accidentally say Mount Seir. I said Mount Seir. Seir. Okay, so now Malachi 1 verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. Right, so that is the wicked, or rather they are the wicked which the Bible speaks of. So let's get another precept as well, okay? In case that one wasn't enough for you to understand that Esau, Edom is the wicked. So let's get this. The wicked are estranged. Let's get that. So this is the book of Psalms 58 verse 3. Right, so let's just pay attention to this one right here. Psalms 58 verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Right. So basically this is of course referring to the wicked once again, okay, and it gives the quality of a liar or a deceiver, which is once again why we call Esau, Edom, the wicked, the devil, which the Bible speaks of, or devil, because if you go into the etymology, or rather the use of the word devil here in the New Testament especially, because you're not going to see the word devil used in the Old Testament, right? Because devil goes back to the Greek word diabolos. Okay, so let's go to the book of Hebrews. I believe that's the 13th chapter, right? As it is written. So this is the book of Hebrews 12 verse 6. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright, right? So the fornicator, of course, is referring to Esau, Edom, right? Which basically because of basically was rejected by the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushai, going back to not only their birth but also going back to receiving the blessings from Isaac. Okay, the blessings that was given to, or rather, that the blessings that Isaac inherited from Abraham that extended to Isaac and ultimately went over to the Hebrew Israelites, right? So basically Jacob and his 12 sons. And of course Esau was not to receive those blessings. After all, it was not written that the elder shall serve the younger, one people shall be greater than the other, and ultimately Esau was rejected by the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Not just rejected, but he was also given that position, that role as the wicked. So let's continue reading about that now. So now Hebrews 12 verse 17. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears, right? And Esau is basically being, and that basically, right, the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushua rejected Esau, and not only rejected him, but has put him in the position of the wicked. So now Esau is, a fornicator, right? A profane person. And what the word profane means is outside of the temple, okay? And that's exactly, what Esau is. Let's get that. This is profane. Bebelos, okay? Bebelos. Accessible, lawful to be trodden of places profane, unallowed, common, public place, of men ungodly, unhallowed, unhallowed, that's the not unallowed, unhallowed, now what's unholy, right? So that's basically what Esau is, right? He cannot come into the temple of the Most High, however, Shem, really, none of the heathen can, come into the temple. And when I mean come into the temple, I mean come into these truths, right? Come into the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Most High, okay? They can actually repent and receive this truth, right? But Esau, Edom is separate because he is the wicked, okay? The devil, which the Bible speaks about, this has been set up to be the wicked, and we already read that in the book of Malachi, the first chapter from the third verse on down, right? That he will be border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai had indignation forever. So let's go back to the book of Job 9 verse 24. Now that we have familiarized ourselves with who the wicked is, right? But also you would have some people that would say, because you had this situation happen a lot of times, that people will say, oh well, Esau, Edom, the nation of Esau has been done away with, which of course it has not. Or they will say, the Most High only had an issue with Esau himself, but the rest of the Edomites, they are okay, they don't have a problem, they can be saved, so on and so forth, right? So this is the book of Malachi. No, not Malachi, Salakia. Micah, that's what I wanted to get. So this is the book of Micah 2 verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage, right? And there is only one group of people on the earth that are doing these actions right here, okay? Because let's not forget, the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, through the prophet Job, he gave that prophecy that the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked, okay? And of course, there's one more precept that we can use to know who the wicked actually is on the earth today. And of course, we'll go back to Job 9 verse 24 first before we go and get that next precept I'm talking about. So now, Micah 2 verse 3. Therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for the time is evil, right? And it's not just referring to one individual, oh, the wicked is just one person, is the Antichrist, no, it's not. It's referring to the entire family, okay? the entire nation, the entire people, because it's not talking about some nuclear family or an extended family. Oh, it's just that you already know which family, those elite families over there, right? We got to join together and band together against them, right? That's what the average Edomite will tell. Usually, that's what the average Edomite is usually trying to do, right? These devils are wicked as hell. They'll try to say, oh, it's just those elite Edomite families over there, right? Let's take them down and everything will be righteous, right? Like everything will be okay. Right? No, it was referring to the entire family of Esau Edom. That includes you low level homeless ass Edomites as well, because you are a part of the Most High Yahweh Sham Yahushai's indignation, and you have a lot to pay for all the wickedness that your people have done, especially against the Israelites over the course of history. Okay, let me go to that. Let me go to that very quickly. I always say that I don't want to bundle up this thing and just try and go into multiple other parts of the scriptures. But let me just get this as well. So this is the book of Ezekiel 35, and I'll start from verse 1. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it. And of course, Mount Seir is referring to, like I said, the abode of Esau Edom. Mount Seir, Mount Seir, Seir. And say unto it, Thus saith Adonai Yahweh, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt know, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. Right, so we are now stating another precept outside of Malachi, where the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai says that he will lay their habitations and their heritage waste. And it's not just referring to Mount Seir, okay? Because Mount Seir really is anywhere that Esau Edom is. America, Babylon the Great is also spiritually Mount Seir. Europe, for the most part, spiritually Mount Seir. The state of Israel as well, spiritually Mount Seir, right? Mount Seir is a people, the Edomites, before it is a place. The same way Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. The same way Israel as well, right? Because you have to remember that the Israel is referring to a nation, right? So the same way that that Israel is a people, Yasharala is a people before it's a place. So Mount Seir here is a people as well, and that people is of course Esau Edom, right? Esau, Edom, Idumea. You Edomites won't be able to escape. You can't say, oh well, we talk about Mount Seir here, but my family are the Greeks and all that. Edomites can't escape, man, because your history and your heritage has already been recorded in the scriptures, and your judgment has also already been recorded in the scriptures. That's why you see that the men of the Lord are able to um bring these precepts out and tell you what the exact nation you belong to. Okay, and we know that you, or for the most part, right, the so-called red, because they're not white, man is Esau Edom, and their family, their line goes back to Esau Edom. So let's keep going into it. So let's go back to, I believe that should be Job 9, right? So now Job 9 verse 24, and it reads, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? And Esau Edom is currently in rulership over the world. Okay, and that's of course the part of the blessing that he was given, right? His blessing is the sword. Let's get that as well. Let's go to that very quickly, because this is all of course relevant in knowing who Esau Edom is. Okay, because hey, like I said, the scriptures has already given the entire detail and listed all the listed everything that makes you know, right, allow you to understand who exactly Esau Edom is. So let's get this. Right, that's it in Genesis 27. So Genesis 27, and let me just get the main point. So now Genesis 27, and I'll start from verse 30. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, right, because Jacob received the blessings. We've already read about this in Hebrews the 12th chapter. And Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting, and he also made savory meat and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father that my father. Okay, let's just jump down a little bit to get to the main point. Okay, so now the main point right here, Genesis 27 verse 33. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it to me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the word of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightfully named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these two times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? Right, and let's just make something clear, okay? Jacob didn't steal the blessing from Esau Edom. The blessing was always his. Right, if you go back to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, before the children were born, right, the prophecy came from the Most High that two manner of people are in thy womb, and two nations, right, and the one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And then Esau sold his birthright and subsequently his blessing, because that was the blessing that you give the firstborn, right, the one that opens the womb, right. So even so in both ways, Jacob had already gotten the blessing from Esau and was supposed to receive the blessing above Esau Edom. And if you go further down into the scriptures, you see the same thing happen between Ephraim and Manasseh. Now they both were blessed, right? But Ephraim got an extra blessing from Jacob, basically. Okay, so now continuing on, Genesis 27 verse 37. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And this is where, this is what that Hebrews, the 12th chapter, was going into, about how, Esau was basically rejected, right? This is it right here. The Most High, however, Shai rejected Esau, okay? It's not like the Most High wanted to give Esau the blessing, right? But then Jacob now came in sneakily and took the blessing from Esau, and the Most High was not like, oh, well, Jacob already got the blessing, so yeah, I'll allow it. No, the blessing was always for Jacob. He was rejected of the Most High because the Most High, however, Shai chose Jacob, chose Israel, okay? That's why you see in the book of Malachi 1, it says what? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, right? Yet I loved Jacob and I hated Esau. And that's the precept that we as the men of the Lord we always bring out. We say, look man, the Most High clearly states in two different parts of the scriptures, Malachi 1 verse 3 and Hebrews 9 verse 13, that he hates Esau. And you have never seen any Christian or any of these theologians ever bring out a coherent answer as to how they can still, have their ridiculous ass doctrines of universal salvation and God loves everybody, if the scriptures clearly tell you that the Most High has a people that he hates. But let's keep going. In Genesis 27 verse 38, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of okay, yeah, I basically got to know all the points I wanted to bring out. So yeah, that's basically the time that we're in right now, okay, where Esau has broken the yoke of our people, right, of the Israelites from off his neck, and now he's living in the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven. But the more important point, okay, in Genesis 27 verse 40, where it says that Esau shall live by the sword, okay, and that's basically what Esau Edom is. And that's why you see these devils out here, whenever you talk about military might, military power, and whenever you talk about weapons and so on and so forth, you see that these Edomites, right, they're the ones that always go around and buying the most guns. They stock up on all these guns, like these Bible Belt Edomites you have in Babylon, right? And you see the way the US operates with its military, okay? And this is how Esau Edom operates, man, because all the blessings, right, the rulership that Esau got was through the force of the sword from the time of Alexander the Greek, right, going into the Romans, and then during the Dark Ages, Jake came into power. But then once again during the Renaissance, and how did Esau get this power? Through the force of the sword, right? Rape, robbery, and murder as well. Unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, by stealing, by killing, and by destroying, right? And that's why we call Esau Edom the devil, because this is just how Esau operates. So now, Second Esdras 9, so okay, I suppose it's Second Esdras 6. Second Esdras 6 verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right. So Esau will be in rulership, and Esau will be in power in the end of the world, and Jacob will be the ones to rule the kingdom to come, right after the destruction. And right now we know the world is being ruled over by the wicked, because the world is being ruled over by Esau Edom, the so-called red man. And you see these devils looking exactly, and you see these devils, they are the Edomites which the Bible speaks of. And let me just lower this a little bit more, just to make sure that you guys can hear me, not this audio that is playing. So yeah, we see that Esau Edom is the devil which the Bible speaks of, okay? And there is a reason why we call him red, because if you go into the description of Esau's birth, and I even forgot to go into this because this is one of the first things I should have actually gone into, right? So Genesis 25 verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau, right? Because as Esau was born, and that's that it's funny, because when you see regular Israelite babies being born, they're not as red as the average Edomite baby is. Even with all the blood that they are covered in, they are still not as red as Esau Edom is when they are born. And that shows you, man, that hey, when they gave birth to Esau, they basically gave birth to him looking like regular Edomites look today, right? The blood showing forth through their skin, the translucent, pale, clear skin, and also as well, the red skin that, like, okay, I already said that part, the blood showing forth through their skin. Basically, that's the reason why you see that these Edomites, their skin goes red, because they are not white, okay, but rather they are red because their blood shows through their skin, right? So that is just a brief explainer as to who Esau Edom is, right? Because he is currently in power today, and that's how we know without the shadow of a doubt that the so-called red man, the so-called white man, is Esau Edom, okay? That's the true identity and the true nationality of the so-called red man. So now the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Job 9 verse 24 again. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And now the second part of him covering the faces of the judges. Okay. And basically what that is referring to is, and let's go to that precept. You see that, and we always go into this as well, right? And this is of course now becoming even more and more common knowledge, especially since Putin opened up those Russian icons, and it showed you that you see these paintings of the saints, right, the Israelites, looking exactly as they are described in the scriptures and exactly as they are supposed to appear, right? Dark skinned men. And that's exactly what we mean when we say, or rather, when the scriptures say he covered the faces of the judges thereof. Not only did he hide the true identity of who the Israelites are, but he also, changed their appearance and changed the identity of the saints, the Most High, our Lord Yahushai, and the different men of the Lord all throughout the scriptures, to make them look like Edomites. Okay, so let's get these precepts. And this is something that was happening going back all the way to the Greek Empire, right? When the Greeks would, basically when the Greeks basically, invaded the Jerusalem and forcing our people to worship their own gods, right? And put an idol in the temple, the idol of Jupiter or Olympus. Let me get that precept first. And I think it should be the same second Esdras. Okay, second I meant second Maccabees. So this is the book of second Maccabees 6, verse 1. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the law of their fathers and not to live after the laws of the Most High Yahweh. Right. So the Greeks were trying to remove our people from their true heritage and their true nationality. So now second Maccabees 6, verse 2, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people. Right, so they were basically trying to change the temple that was in Jerusalem and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that's exactly what the scriptures are talking about when it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked and it covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So Esau Edom was trying to change, right, the temple of the Most High, and not just the temple of the Most High. Let's also go to the book of First Maccabees 3, right, and let's get this as well. So this is the book of First Maccabees 3, verse 46. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspha over against Jerusalem, for in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Right. And basically this was already happening even going back in that time, and it's still happening even at this time. It's called iconoclasm, right? Let me see if I can get the definition of that. Iconoclasm, right? Iconoclasm. So this is the definition of iconoclasm: the action of attacking or assertively rejecting cherished beliefs and institutions or established values and practices, the rejection or destruction of religious images as heretical, the doctrine of iconoclasts, right? So yeah, this is iconoclasm. Iconoclasm is the social belief in the importance of the destruction of icons and other images or monuments, most frequently for religious or political reasons. And you see, that a lot of these images that they are showing as that were destroyed as a result of iconoclasm, right? It's mainly the religious images, and this is what Esau Edom did, because what you have is that during the Renaissance they either destroyed a lot of the images that showed the Most High and His Son, right? That shows the saints, the men of the Lord, as the men that they truly were, or they would paint over those images and make them lighter, right? Make them look more like Edomites rather than their true depiction. So this is the main image that is used for iconoclasm in the Wikipedia. And you see, I think this is just and you see this is looks like him just painting off that image right there while his face is painted up. That's why you see that. That's what how his face is painted up. That's why you see a lot of these ancient sculptures. You always see the noses and the lips broken off, right? Like for example, the Sphinx, and various other sculptures. During the ancient times, you always see either the nose or the mouth or the lips are broken off, and that's the reason why it's to remove that assumption that people will make when they see those images that these are actually dark skinned people, right? In order to take away from or to stop people from knowing that who the true Israelites actually are. And this is just more and more evidence stacking up to show you who Esau Edom is on the earth today. Because this is what he had done, right? As soon as Esau came into power during the Renaissance, of course. It's the first order of business. That's why you see a lot of these Renaissance arts. You see, a lot of these. That's why you see, like I said, a lot of these Renaissance art, and the most popular people from that time period were all these Renaissance artists, and their main job, okay, was to paint over the images, right, the true images of the men of the Lord, of the Most High, and of His Son, right. That's why you have people like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and the like, painting over these images, okay, and painting these new Renaissance images to make to take Christianity from, or rather to take Christianity and this truth from being the heritage, right, of the Hebrew Israelites to some Eurocentric European, which of course they aren't even Europeans, right? But they took over that identity as well from the actual people of Europe, which is Japhet, right? Whether it's the dark skinned Etruscans, the Polynesians, so on and so forth. Okay, even Japhet was also a dark skinned people, indistinguishable from the Negroes. Okay, and if you don't believe that, you can just Google Melanesians, and you know just Google Melanesians, and and hey, and if you don't know your geography or your history, you will believe that they are from one part of Africa or the other, but in reality they are scattered across Asia, the Americas as well, because the Hawaiians are actually Melanesians. If you go back just like 100, 200 years ago, you will see these old pictures, right, of them looking straight up like so-called Negroes, right, are similar to so-called Negroes, but of course, they currently look the way they do, and blanqueamiento. That's what I'll say, man. Blanqueamiento. That's why a lot of these nations suddenly became more pale or became paler because of practices like blanqueamiento. Okay, so let's keep going. So yeah, with that, I think I should just end it right there, because that's all I want to get. That's all I'm going to. That's all I have for that, right? So let's go and read that precept once again, right? Job 9, verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and who rules the earth currently, right? He covered the faces of the judges thereof, if not, where and who is he, right? Because the wicked can only be one group of people, right? It can't be anybody else, okay? And this isn't referring to one individual, like I said, or one person, but rather it's referring to a whole nation, a whole group of people, a whole family, right? A cosmos, the world in wickedness, an arrangement in wickedness. Right, so with that, I'll end the video right there. Once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High. However, Shami Awashai, Ba Shambra Kwadash, Wa Abad Babal, Shalawam. And through the Spirit of Yakim, and you are quite edified, Shalawam.